Hi students, this is part 2 of Social, Ethical, Legal and Economic Issues. We will discuss the impacts of computing on the lifestyle and workplace. Lifestyle can refer to how people are affected as individuals. Workplace can refer to how businesses and employees are impacted. Computing has made its impact in many sectors: communication, education, finance, transport, data storage. With COVID-19 affecting us last year, a lot of education suddenly went online. Were you affected by the sudden change in the mode of delivery? What are the other examples of businesses can you think of that use computing to impact the existing industry? For this presentation, we will touch on these 6 topics: communications, cybersecurity, AI, jobs, data mining, and cryptocurrency. We use smartphones for communications. They need to comply with laws. In Singapore, it is the Personal Data Protection Act. A lot of investment and progress is made in phone security, which is a good thing to keep the phone owners aware. If the app is trying to do something it's not supposed to do, you can disallow. Today, anyone can publish anything online. These are some examples of irresponsible posts. A clear violation of code of conduct for a computing professional. But what about the general public who use social media as part of their lifestyle? Perhaps you say there is freedom of speech. People can post what they want. Can they? Yes, with conditions. You have to ask yourself, are you breaking the law? Are you posting evidence of your own offense? Are you targeting people with specific information that identifies them? Were you serious or were you just joking? Are you writing in the capacity of a member of an organization? Do they have a code of conduct? And are you in violation? Can you delete what you wrote? Even if you delete it, was it really deleted? Or is it permanently stored somewhere on the internet? Did someone else screenshot what you wrote before you deleted it? A superhero once said, "With great power comes great responsibility." We must apply what we learned in cyber wellness to know how to use the internet safely and responsibly. It prevents us from getting into trouble with the existing laws. One grey area is cancel culture. We will use this as a topic for debate. Let's move on to the next sector, cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is increasing in importance as we rely more on computers. Try going to this website to see if your personal data has been compromised in any data breaches. Don't worry, it's not a malicious website, but an educational one for the general public. Was there a breach of your email? Consider it a reminder that it's already made public. So stop using it and change your email and password so that others with this info cannot use it against you. If your data was breached, you might be wondering, whose fault was it? And what exactly are we securing or protecting? The answer: information and infrastructure. Security is a process. You can't just buy a product and say you're secure. Singapore has listed 11 infrastructures as CII, Critical Information Infrastructure. Some examples are Infocom, Energy, Water, Land Transport, Healthcare, Banking, and Finance. Cybersecurity Agency of Singapore conducts tests on these infrastructures. Security should not interfere with business operation, it should minimize the risk. It is nearly impossible to protect from every single threat, and the cost may be prohibitive from doing so. Business continuity plans can be prepared in case things go wrong. The CIA Triad is a model designed to guide policies for information security within an organization by viewing it from 3 angles. Confidentiality. Data is only for authorized viewers, not for others not intended to view. Integrity. Data must be stored or changed in an authorized way and not changed without proper authority in an undesirable manner due to unauthorized access, or by accident, or by poor programming logic. Availability. Systems must be up and running and not be bogged down by attacks. You can click on a triangle to find out more about CIA. Let's define an asset. An asset can be an infrastructure like a server or a support system. These can have one or more vulnerabilities in CIA that can be exploited. A vulnerability is a weakness that is non-compliant or unprotected area of an otherwise secure system, leaving it open to potential attack. Vulnerability can be in the programming code, where attacks like buffer overflow and SQL injection can be used. Another vulnerability could be the users of the systems with weak passwords. They make themselves vulnerable to brute force attacks. A threat agent is someone who has motive, opportunity, and means to take advantage of a vulnerability to realize a threat. Examples are vandals, hackers, competitors, insiders, and natural disasters. Not all activists are bad. There are good activists. For example, in Project Mayhem, a security developer wrote a script to launch DOS attacks on phone scammers. Threats can be an event, process, or activity perpetuated by one or more threat agents. They target the vulnerabilities and work on many angles. When there are vulnerabilities and threat agents capable of exploiting them, they will plan and carry out the threat to attack the asset from many angles. There are 4 categories of attacks. Interception, using TCP hijacking or man-in-the-middle. Fabrication, generating data in a spam system. Modification, using malware to tamper with data, for example, a player using cheat engine. Interruption, using a denial of service attack to flood server with traffic. There are more examples below. Here are even more examples. We will not go through them in detail. You can click on the links for more information. Here we have a link that goes to a CNA documentary on how to stay safe in cyberspace. It is 40 minutes long, but it is entertaining and informative. Cybersecurity is very important. There is a nationwide outreach to educate people on cybersecurity, the private sector, the public service, and the general public. There is educational information for individuals, cybersecurity experts, businesses, the nation, as well as for updating laws. All countries are invested in cybersecurity. This is a cybersecurity management regime for organizations in UK governments. These are cybersecurity tips for businesses and individuals in New Zealand. In our country, we have the Cybersecurity Agency of Singapore. It has cybersecurity reference material for individuals and businesses. Digital defense is a nationwide approach to educate Singapore citizens. Introduced in 2019, it is the first time a new pillar has been added to the framework since it was launched 35 years ago. This is the Defense in Depth approach, a security management tribe for cybersecurity specialists. It covers a lot more aspects than information security. Enough has been discussed about cybersecurity. Now let's go on to AI. There are various types of AI. Reactive machines are AI that always behave the same way, like spam filters, Netflix recommendation engine, and spell checkers. If you did the OOP Tank AI project, you would have coded a simple reactive AI. More advanced AI can learn and adapt and change its behavior depending on the inputs and history. They can even make predictions. Examples are voice assistants, robot vacuum cleaners. Now, let's watch a video about AI.
Imagine a pair of horses in the early 1900s talking about technology. One worries all these new mechanical muscles will make horses unnecessary. The other reminds him that everything so far has made their lives easier. Remember all that farm work? Remember running from coast to coast delivering mail? Remember riding into battle? All terrible. These new city jobs are pretty cushy, and with so many humans in the cities, there will be more jobs for horses than ever. Even if this car thingy takes off, he might say, there will be new jobs for horses we can't imagine. But you, dear viewer from beyond 2000, know what happened. There are still working horses, but nothing like before. The horse population peaked in 1915. From that point on, it was nothing but down. There isn't a rule of economics that says better technology makes more better jobs for horses. It sounds shockingly dumb to even say that out loud, but swap horses for humans and suddenly people think it sounds about right. As mechanical muscles pushed horses out of the economy, mechanical minds will do the same to humans. Not immediately, not everywhere, but in large enough numbers and soon enough that it's going to be a huge problem if we're not prepared, and we're not prepared. You, like the second horse, may look at the state of technology now and think it can't possibly replace your job, but technology gets better, cheaper, and faster at a rate biology can't match. Just as the car was the beginning of the end for the horse, so now does the car show us the shape of things to come. Self-driving cars aren't the future. They're here and they work. Self-driving cars have traveled hundreds of thousands of miles up and down the California coast and through cities, all without human intervention. The question is not if they'll replace cars, but how quickly. They don't need to be perfect, they just need to be better than us. Human drivers, by the way, kill 40,000 people a year with cars just in the United States. Given that self-driving cars don't blink, don't text while driving, don't get sleepy or stupid, it's easy to see them being better than humans because they already are. Now, to describe self-driving cars as cars at all is like calling the first cars mechanical horses. Cars in all their forms are so much more than horses that using the name limits your thinking about what they can even do. Let's call self-driving cars what they really are. Autos, the solution to the transport objects from point A to point B problem. Traditional cars happen to be human-sized to transport humans, but tiny autos can work in warehouses and gigantic autos can work in pit mines. Moving stuff around is who knows how many jobs, but the transportation industry in the United States employs about 3 million people. Extrapolating worldwide, that's something like 70 million jobs at a minimum. These jobs are over. The usual argument is that the unions will prevent it, but history is filled with workers who fought technology that would replace them, and the workers always lose. Economics always wins, and there are huge incentives across wildly diverse industries to adopt autos. For many transportation companies, humans are about a third their total costs. That's just the straight salaries. Humans sleeping in their long-haul trucks cost time and money, accidents cost money, carelessness costs money. If you think insurance companies will be against it, guess what? Their perfect driver is one who pays their small premiums and never gets into an accident. The autos are coming, and they're the first place where most people will really see the robots changing society. But there are many other places in the economy where the same thing is happening, just less visibly. So it goes with autos, so it goes for everything. It's easy to look at autos and Baxters and think technology has always gotten rid of low-skilled jobs we don't want people doing anyway. They'll get more skilled and do better educated jobs like they've always done. Even ignoring the problem of pushing 100 million additional people through higher education, white-collar work is no safe haven either. If your job is sitting in front of a screen and typing and clicking, like maybe you're supposed to be doing right now, the bots are coming for you too, buddy. Software bots are both intangible and way faster and cheaper than physical robots. Given that white-collar workers are, from a company's perspective, both more expensive and more numerous, the incentive to automate their work is greater than low-skilled work. And that's just what automation engineers are for. These are skilled programmers whose entire job is to replace your job with a software bot. You may think even the world's smartest automation engineer could never make a bot to do your job, and you may be right, but the cutting edge of programming isn't super smart programmers writing bots, it's super smart programmers writing bots that teach themselves how to do things the programmer could never teach them to do. How that works is well beyond the scope of this video, but the bottom line is there are limited ways to show a bot a bunch of stuff to do, show the bot a bunch of correctly done stuff, and it can figure out how to do the job to be done. Even with just a goal and no knowledge of how to do it, the bots can still learn. Take the stock market, which in many ways is no longer a human endeavor. It's mostly bots that taught themselves to trade stocks, trading stocks with other bots that taught themselves. As a result, the floor of the New York Stock Exchange isn't filled with traders doing their day jobs anymore. It's largely a TV set. So bots have learned the market and bots have learned to write. If you've picked up a newspaper lately, you've probably already read a story written by a bot. There are companies that teach bots to write anything, sports stories, TPS reports, even say those quarterly reports that you write at work. Paperwork, decision-making, writing, a lot of human work falls into that category, and the demand for human mental labor in these areas is on the way down. But surely the professions are still safe from bots, yes? When you think lawyer, it's easy to think of trials, but the bulk of lawyering is actually drafting legal documents, predicting the likely outcome and impact of lawsuits, and something called discovery, which is where boxes of paperwork gets dumped on the lawyers and they need to find the pattern or the one out-of-place transaction among it all. This can be bot work. Discovery, in particular, is already not a human job in many law firms. Not because there isn't paperwork to go through, there's more of it than ever, but because clever research bots shift through millions of emails and memos and accounts in hours, not weeks, crushing human researchers in terms of not just cost and time, but most importantly, accuracy. Bots don't get sleepy reading through a million emails. But that's the simple stuff. IBM has a bot named Watson. You may have seen him on TV destroy humans at Jeopardy, but that was just a fun side project for him. Watson's day job is to be the best doctor in the world, to understand what people say in their own words and give back accurate diagnoses. He's already doing that at Sloan Kettering, giving guidance on lung cancer treatments. Just as autos don't need to be perfect, they just need to make fewer mistakes than humans, the same goes for doctor bots. Human doctors are by no means perfect. The frequency and severity of misdiagnoses are terrifying, and human doctors are severely limited in dealing with a human's complicated medical history. Understanding every drug and every drug's interaction with every other drug is beyond the scope of human knowability, especially when there are research robots whose whole job it is to test thousands of new drugs at a time. And human doctors can only improve through their own experiences. Doctor bots can learn from the experience of every doctor bot, can read the latest in medical research and keep track of everything that happens to all their patients worldwide and make correlations that would be impossible to find otherwise. Not all doctors will go away, but when the doctor bots are comparable to humans and they're only as far away as your phone, the need for general doctors will be less. So professionals, white-collar workers, and low-skill workers all have things to worry about from automation. But perhaps you are unfazed because you're a special creative snowflake. Well, guess what? You're not that special. Creativity may feel like magic, but it isn't. The brain is a complicated machine, perhaps the most complicated machine in the whole universe, but that hasn't stopped us from trying to simulate it. There is this notion that just as mechanical muscles allowed us to move into thinking jobs, that mechanical minds will allow us to move into creative work. But even if we assume the human mind is magically creative, it's not, but just for the sake of argument, artistic creativity isn't what the majority of jobs depend on. The number of writers and poets and directors and actors and artists who actually make a living doing their work is a tiny, tiny portion of the labor force. And given that these are professions dependent on popularity, they'll always be a very small portion of the population. There can't be such a thing as a poem and painting-based economy. Oh, by the way, this music in the background that you're listening to, it was written by a bot. Her name is Emily Howell, and she can write an infinite amount of new music all day for free. And people can't tell the difference between her and human composers when put to a blind test. Talking about artificial creativity gets weird fast. What does that even mean? But nonetheless, it's a developing field. People used to think that playing chess was a uniquely creative human skill that machines could never do, right up until the point they beat the best of us. And so it will go for all human talents.
So, do you like the video? Is AI coming for our jobs? Instead of using people to do dangerous work, robots can help out, like moving heavy objects, bomb disposal, or clearing rubble at highly radioactive nuclear waste sites. If you click at the link at the bottom right, it brings you to a video. There is a trial on using a social distancing robot dog to minimize human-to-human contact in the COVID period. Here are other tasks AI can do. Tray return, assisting in healthcare, being a news anchor, and a robot barista making coffee. AI can compose music, write news articles where people cannot even tell the difference which is which. In future, when you watch a show or take part in a competition, the contestant can possibly be an AI. AI needs to be robust, which means consistent in performance to be useful. This article discusses 3 notable sources of AI biases. 1. Being careless about using unchecked racially biased data to train the AI wrongly. 2. Using pre-existing web data that unknowingly has biased content. 3. AI can also give wrong predictions due to the different spending powers of people in different social status. So, when training the AI, we have to be careful, lawful, and ethical. You can click on the link here for more info. Researchers in Massachusetts Institute of Technology Media Lab designed an experiment called Moral Machines, a game-like platform to crowdsource people's decisions on how self-driving cars should prioritize lives. In the process, the data generated would provide insight into the collective ethical priorities of different cultures. This research could be used to handle the unfortunate event where the car has brake failure to decide what action the AI should take. Feel free to click on the link to see how Singaporeans fared versus other countries on how we value lives. Here are more links to read about issues with AI. Now we will move on to the next topic, jobs. How does computing or AI affect jobs? The link is an article by a researcher who interviewed experts on their opinions of what jobs are affected, why, and what should be our mindset in moving forward. AI replaces tasks in jobs, not the entire job itself. Some tasks can be automated, while others still require human judgment and social skills. Instead of worrying about jobs, people should understand that jobs can be redesigned to work side by side with AI. This can increase quality and productivity for businesses. Change is the only constant. If businesses don't evolve, they die. Jobs change with the times. Now we have jobs like influencer, cloud engineer, and we can also be AI engineers that manage and maintain the AI to ensure that it works as intended. Let's move on to the next topic, data mining. In this link, American University professor Stephen Kudiba explains what is data mining. We are in an information economy where we accumulate data from every transaction. People use Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter in their daily lives, constantly capturing data. The data collected can be used to perform data mining, where we use mathematical and computational methods to analyze and extract trends and patterns. This is done in business analytics, a data-driven approach to help make decisions that increase productivity, efficiency, and bottom line. Other than business analytics, data mining can be used in behavioral analytics to do customer profiling. An example of use is to target specific advertisements to customers. The data obtained can also be used for machine learning purposes. So, is big data the new oil? Big data refers to datasets that are too large or complex to be dealt with by traditional data processing. The article looks at Amazon, Apple, Facebook, Google, Microsoft, companies that collect overwhelming data on a daily basis. Their profits are surging. So far, authorities don't see a problem. There is evidence that competitors like Snapchat can coexist with them. They are also providing web services that people need for free. In return, we agree to their terms of use and let them collect our data and show advertisements. There are also ethical issues. Could they be using data to spy on communications? Trying to identify potential competitors? Facebook made a 22 billion purchase in 2014 to buy WhatsApp, a messaging application with fewer than 60 employees that had little revenue. It was an illogical purchase, but it went through. Was this an acquisition to eliminate potential rivals? Surprisingly, big data also has its own set of ethics. You can click on the links to find out more. Finally, we have cryptocurrency. This slide contains some background information about Bitcoin, the first cryptocurrency. How does it impact the individual, businesses, and the economy? What is the dark web? What do people sell in the dark web? What is the currency of transactions in the dark web? I have come to the end of the presentation. There are many other examples of computing that impact the social and economic development. Can you come up with more examples? And what impacts has it made?